Greetings everyone, once again it's Motam 1AD sharing the authentic truth brought to us by Seule. Here the teaching I'm going to share is going to be regarding, did Christ and the prophets speak vulgarly? Did they complain? Question mark. Because Seule made this teaching a while ago because one person and some people did complain that the way he was speaking, the way he speaks, for them they find it harsh. They find his word harsh. And we're going to see if, even we're going to be using the current classical day Bible, if the prophets in the so-called Old Testament and even the Christ, if they use harsh language when they were addressing some people according to the scriptures. Now, for that, we know that in John chapter 3, verse 11, it says, "Very truly I tell you, we speak of what we know, and we testify to what we have seen." So here, we are going to share, we're going to speak regarding what we know and what we have seen, meaning what we've seen, the teaching, what we've heard, the teaching from Seule. Now, first we have to put things in perspective. Seule is the only teacher, meaning no one can combat him, no one can face him, meaning no one can go against him. All the pastors out there, everybody in the world, their strength united. If they want to spiritually combat, go against Seule, they will fail. They will be overpowered. Even the demons, even Satan himself, the occult world, they can't have power. They have no power over Seule, the only teacher. And Seule gave the revelation that even if he commit something that people will consider a sin, meaning even if, for example, he go and sleeps with 2 prostitutes, even at that moment, if people go and fight him spiritually, they will fail, meaning they won't succeed. Seule will overpower them, even if he's committing a sin. That's the difference between who the Father has sent in this era, which is who is Seule, and the rest, because he doesn't have the Spirit with a limit. Now, in Jeremiah chapter 33, verse 3, it says this: "Call to me, and I will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know." So here we're going to reveal to people out there who will try to complain that Seule talk harshly, use bad language or foul language according to their own understanding, or that Seule insult them, because we know that in the teaching that Seule gives us, sometimes he will tell a certain group of people that they have no knowledge, that they lack knowledge, that they are ignorant. And some people will think in their understanding that is an insult. So we're going to see if the prophets did insult if it is according to the scriptures, or it's something that someone that was sent by the Creator, or someone that was sent by, according to your understanding, the true God, if that's something a messenger can do. So first, for you out there who will complain regarding Zulu Lesson, or regarding the teachings that we are sharing, right now is the period of the so-called Christmas as well. And many people are celebrating this. They will put on the Christmas tree, put on decoration, and so on. But most of them, some of them, have no knowledge of where does that celebration come from. And many of them as well know where it comes from, but still decide to celebrate it. And they will say, no, it's for the children, understand it's only for them. Just acceptance. The question is, does the true God accept sin, understand sin, understand going against the law, the commandment? Because we know that the true Christ wasn't born in winter. He wasn't born during winter time. And he wasn't born on the 25th of December. So first, settle your quarrel, settle your deal, your problem with Christmas before trying to settle or trying to come in argument with Zulu Lassan, the only teacher, or try to argument with the teachings we are sharing. Settle your issue, your problem with that fake Jesus that you have accepted, that the fake image, the fake religions. First, deal with that issue before you're trying to argument that no, the one that the messenger of our time, to try to say that the messenger of our time is speaking harshly, and he should, or try to say that he should use a better suitable, according to your understanding, a more suitable language, less harsh. So, and for your information out there, for all of you out there who will also be in the comments, no one can correct Zulu Lassan teaching. No one on earth. Not the physician, the scientist, all the pastors, even the Pope, even all the fake people who have written the Bibles, the current classical day Bibles. No one can correct the teachings of Zulu Lassan. You know why? Because Zulu Lassan is one with the scriptures. Zulu Lassan is the scripture. So, by trying to correct Zulu Lassan, you're trying to correct the scriptures, which is impossible. Zulu Lassan is the path, the way, the truth, and the life. So in our time is the only path to the great order of things. It's the path, the truth, and life. That's the truth. Zulu Lassan, the only teacher. Now, one person did in the past mention that no, the Christ never complained or did not yell, and so on. But that's not according to the scriptures. For that, in this teaching that we are sharing, we're going to show the verses, the passages in the current classical day Bible where the prophets did complain and did use some what people would consider as harsh words. In Acts chapter 23 verse 3, it says this: Then Paul said to him, God will strike you, you whitewashed wall. You sit there to judge me according to the law, yet you yourself violate the law by commanding that I be struck. So here, according to the current classical day Bible, Paul, knowing the current classical day Bible as Paul of Tarsus, or Paul, was saying to a person that God will strike you, you whitewashed wall. You whitewashed wall. So he was calling someone whitewashed. So, and you have to understand, he says as well that yet you violate the law by commanding that I be struck. In New Living Translations, it says, but Paul said to him, God will slap you, you corrupt hypocrite. So, you see, Paul called him whitewashed, corrupt hypocrite. And in verse 4, it says this in the New International Version: those who were standing near Paul said. So, like here, like in our time, some people will listen to the words that Zulu will say, will listen to the teachings, and they will say, in their understanding, here in verse 4 it says, those who were standing near Paul said, how dare you insult God high priest? So these people were, in their understanding, they were saying that Paul was insulting that person. He was insulting. So he was using foul language. Like some people are saying, for example, when Zulu called them spiritually ignorant, spiritually retarded, or that they have no knowledge. Some people will think that no, he's insulting. He's calling them by names, he's calling them maybe stupid, and so on. But they also accused Paul of doing the same thing in the current classical day Bible. And in verse 5, so this is still in Acts chapter 23, verse 5, English Standard Version, it says, those who stood by said, would you revile God high priest? Question mark. Verse 6. So this was in the verse 4, where it says, those who stood by said, would you revile God high priest? And in verse 6, in verse 5, he says this. Paul replied. So in verse 5, Paul replied, brothers, I did not realize that he was the high priest. For it is written, Do not speak evil about the ruler of your people. So here you have to understand that Paul was mocking them. Paul was saying, oh, I did not realize that was the high priest I was insulting. That was the high priest I said those words to. Meaning, he was saying, that's not the high priest. So I have the right to speak to him that way. So Paul replied, brothers, I did not realize that he was the high priest. So once again, he was mocking them. Here in King James Version, so this is Act chapter 23, verse 5. In King James Bible, it says, Then said Paul, I wist not, brethren, that he was the high priest, for it is written, Thou shalt not speak evil of the ruler of my people. New King James Versions, I did not know, brethren, that he was the high priest. So he was like, the high priest, I did not know that was the high priest. You see? Because he did not consider him, that person, like the others considered him. So, people out there who lacks knowledge, who will say that Seule Bible used bad language, foul language, or insult, you are the one who have no knowledge. You're not spiritually elevated. In Matthew chapter 23, verse 27, here we're going to show where Christ also used those type of language. In the New Living Translation, it says, What sorrow awaits you, teacher of religious law, and your Pharisees, hypocrites, for you are like whitewashed tombs, beautiful on the outside, but filled on the inside with dead people's bone and all sorts of impurity. So here, according to the current classical of the Bible, the Christ called the Pharisees as hypocrites, whitewashed tombs. So they were calling them whitewashed. And that they were filled with all sorts of impurities. So the question is, did Christ insult them? What people would consider insult? The question is, does the scriptures, does the word consider that insult? Because in 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 22, he says this, he committed no sin and no deceit was found in his mouth. Verse 23, while being reviled and insulted, he did not revile or insult in return. You see? So here you're told in 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 23 that the Christ did not insult, meaning the word that he was using, the term, even though some people will consider them as harsh or that he was attacking them, he was putting them down and so on, because he was saying the truth. So the word doesn't consider that as an insult or as a sin. What you consider foul language, bad, harsh, the word doesn't consider it the same. So those who've accepted, for example, the fake image of the white Jesus, they're whitewashed. They lack knowledge. They're ignorant. You can go complain to who you want. That will not change anything. Now, we are going to see if, according to the scriptures, according to the Bible, that if Christ or the prophet did complain. In Psalms chapter 22, verse 21, it says this, my God, why have you abandoned me? You see? Why are you so far away when I groan for help? Question mark. So here, what is to groan? Is to utter a deep moan indicative of pain, grief, or annoyance. So it's also considered as a complaint. To make a harsh sound under sudden or prolonged strain. Because even the Christ complained. Even asked, how long will I be with you? He was complaining. And the prophets also, they did complain about what the people that were going against the law were doing, their actions. So, once again, Seule and the scriptures are one. Seule is one with the authentic scriptures, the pure scriptures. So the prophets did complain, did accuse others, and did use what some people will consider as harsh language. Even the Christ, he said, do not be like the Pharisees, do not be like them. So he was accusing them. He was complaining. But at the same time, he was giving revelations to his apostles, to his followers, to his disciples. He was nourishing them spiritually. Psalms chapter 54, verse 1, it says this, save me, O God, by your name, and vindicate me by your might. Verse 2, hear my prayer, O God. Listen to the words of my mouth. Verse 3, for strangers rise up against me, and ruthless men seek my life. Men with no regard for God. So here, in the current classical day Bible, David was complaining, was asking to be vindicated. So that was a complaint. Matthew chapter 12 verse 42, it says this, because this generation, in this time we are living in, it's very mysterious, and it's also the time of liberation. And we have a visitor with us, a messenger of the true Father, the messenger that came from beyond the visible realm. And that's Seule. You are told in Matthew chapter 12 verse 42 that the Queen of Sheba will also stand up against this generation on Judgment Day and condemn it, for she came from a distant land to hear the wisdom of Solomon. Now someone greater than Solomon is here, but you refuse to listen. Period. So at the time of Christ, someone greater than Solomon was indivisible, was on earth, was teaching, was spreading the truth, was liberating, freeing the people. And in our time as well, someone greater than Solomon is among us. But some people refuse to listen. Some people will complain, will say, no, he used bad language, he used foul language, he shouldn't use this term, he shouldn't use that term, and so on. Who are you to judge? Who are you? You were born recently. You're just born. What did you assist? Did you assist the beginning of creation? Did you assist how the earth was created? What did you see? You're only reading books, listening to the media and so on, listening to fake pastors. Your opinion, your way of seeing, of understanding, have no bearing. Seule Bible is here to liberate, to bring us back to the source. So, for anyone who will think that no, the prophet didn't use foul language, did not complain, they did. Christ complained. Christ even used the whip, chased them out of the temple. So, in Numbers chapter 11, verse 12, it says, this is regarding Moses. I know I've made a teaching recently. I've shared a teaching recently regarding Moses, who has appeared to Moses. But here we're gonna be, we're gonna stay in the current classical Bible that says, "Did I conceive all these people? Question mark. Did I give them birth? Question mark. Why do you tell me to carry them in my arms, as a nurse carries an infant, to the land you promised on oath to their ancestors?" So, according to the current classical Bible, Moses was also complaining, was saying, because the people, some of them were in disorder, because Moses had a great responsibility, and he was complaining about them. That why he's saying here that he did not give birth to them. He did not conceive these people. Job chapter 10 verse 1, it says this, "I loathe my life, therefore I will give free rein to my complaint and speak out in the bitterness of my soul." You see. Romans chapter 8 verse 26, it says, "As it is written, for your sake we face death all day long. We are considered sheep to be slaughtered." New Living Translations, "As the scripture says, for your sake we are killed every day. We are being slaughtered like sheep." So here, according to the current classical Bible, he was the we. That means those are the people that were walking according to the word, to the when it says we, so according to the current classical Bible, that's also referring to the prophets. Because they were facing the people, they were facing the enemy. And he says here, we are considered as sheep to be slaughtered. So they are complaining regarding that situation. And this is in the current classical day Bible. In Psalms chapter 44, verse 22, he says, "Yet for your sake we face death all day long. We are considered as sheep to be slaughtered." So that's where the Romans 8, verse 26, it's taken from. Psalms chapter 1, verse 1, it says, "Blessed is the one." Now, before I read the next, it's also because some people will think, for example, when we say, no, this person has no knowledge or is ignorant, they'll say, no, that is mocking. But in Psalms 1:1, it says, "Blessed be the one who do not walk in the step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or sit in the company of mockers." New Living Translations, "Oh, the joys of those who do not follow the advice of the wicked, or stand around with sinners, or join in with mockers." So here, the current classical Bible tells you that you shouldn't stop with the mockers. Be in the company of these type of people. But in Proverbs 1, verse 22, he says, "How much longer will I enjoy? How much longer will you enjoy being stupid fools?" Question mark. So here you see, in Proverbs 1:22, the word is calling them stupid fools. Those who basically are ignorant. "Won't you ever stop sneering and laughing at knowledge?" Question mark. New Living Translation, "How long, you simpleton, will you insist on being simple-minded?" So you see, even the scriptures, the text, call some people, some category of people, as simple-minded, as stupid fools. You see, is that an insult? Some people will consider if you call someone stupid, that's an insult. Somebody will think, oh, that's an insult. But the scriptures use those terms as well. Now, in Proverbs 1, verse 20, this is also because some people will think, no, a messenger shouldn't yell, shouldn't speak loudly. In Proverbs 1:20 it says, "Out in the open, wisdom call aloud, comma, she raises her voice in the public square, semicolon." So here, you see, there are some people out there who will bring forth complaint, who will bring forth arguments, who will bring forth accusations against the messenger that was sent. But those people have no knowledge. They don't even think. They don't even read. They will say, no, the prophet didn't do this, didn't do that, didn't act that way. But the scriptures, the text, the same Bible that they read, mention the prophets doing those same actions, using those same language, the same words, the same harsh words. That's how you know, before you try to complain, are accused before opening your mouth to try to accuse. First, see if it is biblical. Read. So, don't dare try to go against the messenger of our time by trying to bring forth false accusations. Your accusations have no substance. All your accusations against the only teacher, against Seule has no substance. It doesn't. Those type of accusations don't hold up, are nonsense, are made out of ignorance, out of lack of knowledge. Because those type of people have a spirit of a complex and a spirit of insufficiency. Now, in One Kings chapter 18 verse 27, it says, "At noon Elijah began to taunt them. 'Shout louder,' he said. 'Surely he is a god, perhaps he is in thought, or busy, or traveling. Maybe he is sleeping and must be awakened.'" New Living Translations, at about noontime, Elijah began mocking them. So here you're told, according to the current classical the Bible, that Elijah mocked some people, was mocking them. The false prophet. He was mocking them, laughing at them. And was that considered a sin? In Proverbs chapter 3 verse 34, it says, "He mocks proud mockers, but show favor to the humble and oppressed." New Living Translations, "The Lord mocks the mockers, but is gracious to the humble." So here you're told that the Lord mocks the mockers. So, in Psalms chapter 18 verse 26, it says, "To the pure you show yourself pure, but to the crooked you show yourself shrewd." What is shrewd is considered, it means severe, hard. Proverbs chapter 21 verse 24, "The proud and arrogant person, mockers is his name, behave with insolent fury." So people were considering Elijah as arrogant, as a mocker. But were those accusations valid? In John chapter 6 verse 60, says this in the New International Version. "Oh, on hearing it," he says this, "on hearing it, many of his disciples said, 'This is a hard teaching, period. Who can accept it?' Question mark." English Standard Version, "When many of his disciples heard it, they said, 'This is a hard saying. Who can listen to it?'" New American Standard Bible, "So then many of his disciples, when they heard this, said, this statement is very unpleasant. Who can listen to it? Amplified Bible. This is a difficult and harsh and offensive statement. So, the disciples, the followers of the Christ, some of them were considering, they were saying that the Christ was using offensive language, was using harsh word, difficult language. Who can keep listening to him? They were asking, they were saying, they were accusing. That no, he lacked tactics. He should speak more softly, and so on. But it's not because they say those things, they accuse, that necessarily their point of view is valid. And it says here in Amplified Bible, it is difficult and harsh and offensive statement. You see? Who can be expected to listen to it? Because some people, they're going to say, no, you shouldn't use those terms. You shouldn't use those language. You should speak more softly. Or you shouldn't use those type of statements. You shouldn't say those things. But it's the truth. (1 Corinthians chapter 2 verse 14). The person without the Spirit does not accept the things that comes from the Spirit of God, but considers them foolishness, and cannot understand them because they are discerned only through the Spirit. Verse 15. The spiritual person judges all things, but is himself to be judged by no one. So, no one can judge Zulu Lassan, the only teacher. If you don't accept the message, if you find the message is harsh, if you find the teachings is too hard, or you're complaining, you're accusing, you're not understanding, well, that's because the person without the Spirit does not accept the things that comes from the Spirit. So a spiritual person will understand those things, will understand why. In New Living Translation, it says, but the people who aren't spiritual can't receive this truth from the Spirit. So the teachings from Zulu Lassan is the word, is the truth, it's the scripture. All glory to Loba, the only and unique Creator.